They pass judgment on that they do not comprehend. Cicero, toastmaster of this area contest, judges, fellow members, friends. I'm gonna tell you a short story about a girl. Her name is Chimamanda Adichie. She was born in Zimbabwe. She learned to read at the very short age of 4 years old. She had access only to British literature. And then, of course, she usually read about blonde children with blue eyes, and who usually ate apples and talked a lot about the weather and how charming it was that finally they had a sun up in the sky. Later on, she learned to write. And of course, when she started writing, she usually wrote stories about blonde children with blue eyes who ate apples, and usually talked about the charming weather, despite of the fact that in Zimbabwe, every day they have sunshines. They don't usually eat apples. In fact, they probably don't even know them. And most of the people around her were black people with curly hair. She lived in a very rich family. She had servants in her house. One of these servants was a small child called Fide. Probably most of us, when we were children, heard our parents complaining when we didn't like something to eat. And they always argue, how is it possible? How dare you not eat all your food? Don't you know there are children out in the street who don't have anything to eat? In the case of Chimamanda, that child actually had a name, and they usually reprimanded her, telling her, how dare you not eat your food? Don't you know, for example, Fide's family don't have anything to eat? All she knew about Fide's family is that they were very, very poor. There was this one time when she went with Fide to visit his family, and she was surprised because Fide's elder brother gave her a handicraft, a basket of limber. And she was so surprised because all she had heard about this family was how poor they were. So she was actually convinced of the fact that they were so poor, they actually probably didn't know any other way to survive. They were not capable of working or doing anything by their own hands. Eventually, of course, Chimamanda grew up and moved to New York to study at university. When this person from Zimbabwe arrived in New York, the whole campus was surprised because, of course, they were expecting probably a funny dressed person with bones in her head, who could not speak English, who wouldn't be educated. And instead of that, they found a very well-dressed person who spoke a perfectly understandable English, a very well-educated person. In fact, she relates one time when her roommate asked her, very excited, to listen to her traditional preferred music, and Chimamanda, as a response, took her iPod out of her backpack and played Mariah Carey. Of course, we can find a pattern in all these stories. What happens next? Chimamanda had the chance to travel Mexico. The sole story Chimamanda had about Mexico is the story most North Americans have from Mexicans, that they hear from the news, maybe immigrants. They think about people who are ignorant, who are incapable of working, who don't have enough education to survive by themselves. When she came to Mexico, the first city she visited was here, Guadalajara. And she describes how ashamed she felt when she realized that Mexicans, just as she wasn't a person with a funny dress or bones in her head, Mexicans are not funny people or ignorants who are incapable of working. Mexicans have a rich culture, have a rich society. So what is the pattern, the real pattern of this story? The great danger we get to see here is that when you hear only one sole story from one culture, or one family, or one book, your vision is limited. What am I inviting you to do is that every time in your life, try to expand your view. Look for the most information you can, and I assure you that each time you do that, you too surprise yourself finding multiple views, multiple people, rich cultures, and of course, great countries.